Hello and welcome to the Our Connected World podcast brought to you by TE Connectivity. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. The pace of innovation seems to be getting quicker every day. AI is being integrated into our daily lives. Our cars are getting smarter and smarter with every new model year. Even our kitchen appliances are making us all better cooks. But what is it like to work in the whirlwind of change? Here to help us sort this out is Shad Kroeger. He is the president of the Industrial Solutions segment of TE Connectivity. Shad, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we kind of dive in here, can you tell us a little bit about you and your background and responsibilities at TE?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I've been with TE for 30 years, and I started my career as an engineer here at TE, designing manufacturing processes and designing products. And now I run the Industrial Solutions segment, as you said, that covers five businesses. We have a factory automation and home automation business, an energy business, an AI data center business, an energy business, and an aerospace and defense business. And my responsibility is to lead the strategy and the growth of those five businesses.
So I want to ask you, the real reason that we're here to talk today is how rapidly things are moving. And you talked about being in the business for a long time. So am I right in that innovation, especially now, seems to be happening more quickly than ever before?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think back to my career 30 years ago when I was an engineer, and the pace of change that I've seen over these 30 years is quite amazing in terms of the cycles that our customers are going through. And we see this across all of our industries. Certainly, probably the most prolific is in our data center side of our business. We just see rapid pace of evolution from things that used to be 4-year design cycles now are 18 months or 2 years. But it's not just isolated to the AI and data center. We see it in aerospace and defense, which is typically a really long cycle business because of the qualifications that customers go through. But even in that area where customers are moving into new applications, they're expecting those products to get to market much faster to meet their customer needs. So we're seeing it across our entire industry and all the applications that we're in.
Yeah, and you mentioned AI before, and you can have nary a conversation that doesn't maybe touch on AI somewhere. TE is at the core of AI evolution and many other industries as well. So, how are you keeping up with it all? Because we talk about the rapid movement. So, give us some insight there if you can.
You know, it's there are many techniques that we're having to use, but let me just start with probably the most important thing that I still see, which I think has been fundamental in business since I was an engineer, and that's really collaborating with our customers. It's impossible to sort of know that you can look from the outside in and anticipate this from inside your own business. You really need to be connected with your customer to understand their needs, what they're trying to do, and what are their options that they have. Because at the end of the day, being an engineer, fundamentally, it's about optimizing problems for your customer. So it's that give and take discussions you really have to have with customers to really deeply understand what problems they're trying to solve and then how you can adjust your solutions to solve with them. So that's a really critical piece to keep pace with your customer is having that deep collaboration with them. Um, I also think it's the other end of it too. It's the suppliers that we have to have that help us design and manufacture the products and solutions that we're giving to our customers. So, we have over 200,000 customers that we are working with, and you can't develop a deep relationship with all of them, but the ones that are critically important, we're really making sure work on and across our network of, it goes across our distributor chain. There's a lot of people that help us touch customers, but it's that insight that we get to understand the visibility and have understand their challenges. It's absolutely critical to keep pace.
And to follow up to that, because you mentioned the importance of collaboration, how does this collaboration translate into the actual engineering work, particularly for engineers at B2B companies like TE?
Yeah, that collaboration really drives us to understand this optimization piece and how do we really help optimize our customers' solutions. There's many times the pace of innovation now is such that our customers don't always know the specs of exactly what they need. They know how they need their system to work, but they're not down at the component level like we are, understanding what the trade-offs could be. So the role of our engineers to be help enable our customers to be successful is be able to, in real time, be able to adjust and optimize solutions for our customers. And that's really the critical piece that they're looking for from us. And that's the partnership is so important to be able to do that. And I think without that, sort of back and forth that happens, rapidly in some cases, it's the piece that distinguishes sort of a successful design with a customer and one that doesn't. And it's really that engineer's ability to really triangulate all that information and be able to make the optimization, really come to life for our customers. And certainly we can get into some examples, but there are certainly the invention of AI on the sort of the engineering side and how we implement that is giving us the ability to do those iterations faster and bring in more information to think about how to triangulate and optimize in a more effective way.
And of course, the customer is the number one priority here. So, collaborative engineering is a long-standing best practice for TE. But I want to talk to you about how engineering with customers is evolving right now. What are some of the changes you see with customers? And then how are engineers adapting?
It's a good question. I think maybe a couple places that I would take this. We really started this conversation talking about the pace of innovation and what that means from our customers. I do think that's still the biggest change that they're dealing with is this pace, that evolution that's happening. And then what it's driving them to do is they're forced to make decisions earlier in the design cycle, maybe without all the perfect information that they would have liked to have had. So they're really looking for ways to help drive that ability to say, hey, I think I'm 80% right. How do I iterate from here? And what we've seen with a lot of our customers is, getting it perfect used to be really critical, probably still is in a lot of ways, but it's shifting this left and shifting upstream that our customers are really worried about in terms of pace. So what they're looking for is, hey, how do we get to an 80% solution? Then how do we iterate from there versus, hey, take me a fully baked solution. And it's a really important piece of this iteration cycle because of the complexity of the design. It's creating more uncertainty for our customers. Again, I told you they don't know what their spec is, they just know how they need it to work. And once they get a solution from us, they can put that in, they can try that, and they can iterate from there. And that's probably the name of this game is it's a lot of iteration. That's why AI is really helpful here because it helps us iterate in different ways. But I think it's an important piece of understanding what's happening in engineering, and it's a lot of it's pace driven and it's driving uncertainty for our customer.
So there are a lot of things in play here: pace, complexity, and of course, AI. So let's unpack each of these and how you are seeing engineers meet this moment. How are engineers helping tech companies accelerate with all of those things in play?
Listen, I think one of them is that our engineers, and I think engineers that are successful working with customers, they do need to have a deep understanding of the problems that our customers are solving. Not only your products that you have and the technology you have, but what are the problems that our customers are trying to solve, and having a close proximity with them to partner is critically important. I think that's a first key phase. I think the second is um, customers are investing more on the front end of designs than they have in the past, and it's important that they have partners that help them think out a generation, two generations out to continue to keep pace with how fast things are changing, then make sure that they can manage sort of the downstream impacts of that. And then I think what we're seeing from, I would say, a lot of B2B engineering is the ability to create solutions that really help tech companies move faster. They have to do that with confidence, and I think it's that way of how they're optimally engineering in partnership with our customers or with customers. It's really helping them be successful. I think it's creating a lot of engagement with the customer, but also bringing a lot of satisfaction to engineers and being able to deliver those solutions.
So you hit on satisfaction. I want to ask you my favorite part, hearing kind of the proof is in the pudding. If you can share an example of what this looks like, what have you seen at TE or maybe other B2B engineering companies?
Absolutely. Listen, I do think it's important that we find ways that we have environments that our engineers can collaborate with engineers at the companies that we're serving. An example I want to give you is with our medical business, our Propellus Prototyping Center. This is a center that's set up to have all the tools to make an end-to-end solution in conjunction with our customers and collaborating with them to understand the geometry concerns they have, the types of changes that we would make to a design, but it lets our customers see in real time and iterate with our team on design changes that we can make so we can optimize this. This is a great way for us to really get the feedback from customers on exactly what they need, but for them to also understand the design trade-offs that we can make, and because of our capabilities, how we can make that end solution even more effective for them. So I also want to share another example with you, and this is in our energy business. In our energy business environment where we have high voltage testing that's required to qualify the products and for us to be able to document and provide evidence of the validity or the capacity of these designs. We use that as an opportunity to bring our customers in for them to see the testing that we go through, and also use that as an opportunity to train our customers on how to use the products and how to apply those products and how to assure that they're meeting their requirements. But through that process, it allows us a chance to iterate with our customers and see how they use the products, and then find ways to help them take a lot of the applied cost out of designing those products. So in that example, we see how customers are using it, and then we find ways to help them use it more effectively and at a lower cost, and then ultimately saving them money and time.
So I want to switch gears here for a second because it's not all smooth sailing. There are challenges that tech companies are facing around design uncertainty. Can you speak more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of I told you there's examples in the AI business, and I think this is a really good time to bring this up because there is just a rapid pace that's happening, and there is a lot of uncertainty for our customers. Um, we worked with one of our hyperscale customers, and they had a design spec. They knew what they wanted. We gave them a design, and as it went through their testing, they realized that their overall system wasn't meeting the need that they had designed the system for. They realized they needed to change, and it wasn't just changing our product; it was changing their whole architecture. This is kind of back to the hey, they know what they need, but they don't even actually know all the specs. And then we had to go through an iteration cycle with them, and over the about 6 months, we had to iterate 11 different designs for them to really figure out how to optimize this architecture. And it was a complete home run for the customer because they realized what they need to do to change to optimize and get the most out of the data center performance. So their AI models were highly effective, but that wouldn't have happened without this iterative approach with us. So yes, a lot of uncertainty, but if you approach that uncertainty with a view of, hey, I don't need to have it perfect, but I can iterate my way to a better solution, is really an evolving landscape in engineering that's really changing from maybe the days like I told you of bringing a complete solution that's fully tested, into a customer.
Yeah, 11 is a lot of iterations. And this is maybe a good time to bring up AI. How are you seeing AI meet the needs of tech companies, and how is it changing how engineers interact?
You know, this is it's interesting because it's a tool for our engineers, and I think for any engineers to really to go through this this process of iterating faster and getting to getting speed through the designs, and engineers are really embracing these tools. I'm really impressed with how quickly engineers are adopting all sorts of, whether it's productivity tools around AI, putting agentic agents in place to help them sort through information faster. But there's a lot of there's a lot of ways that our engineers are using them. I think some of the more powerful ones are things that look through the catalog of history of designs that they've had, testing that they've done, and use that as a way to bounce off current designs and really spot flags and design flaws or testing flaws earlier in the process of helping them adjust designs. I think the other thing I see with our teams are being able to look across a huge portfolio of products and be able to use that as design inspiration for how they could come up with design earlier and come up with options earlier. And then I think the last thing you do see with a lot of design modeling for sure is design models with the right inputs can come up with geometries and configurations that we wouldn't normally think of because they're not kind of the traditional way that we would make or design things. So it really does sort of test our team and push the limits in terms of how they would approach a design and the solutions that they would come up with on their own. So I do think it's a little bit of a very powerful side by side tool. But I think the important thing here too is this isn't about replacing engineers. This is about making engineers more effective. And I talked a lot in this conversation about the fact that you can't automate the human connection. The collaboration is critically important with our customers. And I think for engineers out there, it's an important piece of, hey, I need to maintain my connection to the customer and the market. How am I using AI tools to make what I do better and more effective and move faster for my customer?
I think I already know the answer to this next question, but I am going to ask it anyway. Do you think the pace of innovation will slow down anytime soon?
No, the pace of innovation is not going to slow down. As a business leader, I know what I need from my teams on pace, and business leaders like me around the world are all thinking the same thing. And we certainly know as consumers, what we expect. We want those unique solutions faster to help us be, better, more productive, whatever that is. But I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon.
Any final thoughts as we're wrapping up here, Shad?
Listen, I think I think this is an exciting time, and while maybe there's a lot of uncertainty around AI, there's also a lot of power behind it, and embracing the power that AI brings is a way to certainly make people more effective and more productive, and we see it across our businesses, certainly in our engineering and across a lot of our functions, and it's a powerful tool. But doesn't replace that human connection that you need to be a really good engineer.
Shad Kroeger, president of the Industrial Solutions segment of TE Connectivity. Thank you so much, Shad, for being here. Appreciate your time and sharing all of your wisdom about this topic and how things will not be slowing down and TE's role in all of that. So appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Michelle.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening to the Our Connected World podcast. Of course, if you'd like to listen to more episodes, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast. And you can always get more information on this conversation and more about TE at te.com. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to connect with you on another podcast soon.